Solve the longitude. These three words held the key to mastering the oceans in the 18th century. For sailors and kings, it was the greatest scientific puzzle of the age. Finding your position on a map requires two coordinates. Latitude, the north-south position. Sailors could measure the angle of the sun at noon, or the height of the North Star to know how far they were from the equator. But longitude, the east-west position, was a mystery. Without a reliable way to measure it, every voyage was a dangerous gamble, a blind journey across a vast and featureless sea. The problem was simple to state, but incredibly difficult to solve. To find your longitude, you need to know two times at once. You must know the local time on your ship, which can be found by observing when the sun is at its highest point in the sky. You also need to know the time at a fixed point on Earth, like the port you left from. The difference between these two times tells you how far east or west you have traveled. The Earth spins 360 degrees in 24 hours, so every hour of time difference equals 15 degrees of longitude. A simple calculation, but one that depended on a single impossible thing, a clock that could keep perfect time at sea. The harsh conditions of the open ocean made traditional timekeeping a nightmare. Pendulum clocks, the most accurate timekeepers on land, were useless on a rocking ship. The constant motion, the dramatic shifts in temperature, and the corrosive salty air all worked together to ruin delicate clock mechanisms. Metal parts would expand and contract with the heat and cold, causing the clock to run fast or slow. Humidity would rust the gears, and the violent lurching of the vessel could stop a clock entirely. Because of this, ships were often lost, sailing for weeks in the wrong direction, running out of food and water, or crashing into unseen rocks and coastlines. The crisis became so severe that nations with great maritime ambitions knew they had to find a solution. In 1714, the British government passed the Longitude Act, a historic piece of legislation. It created a group of experts known as the Board of Longitude and offered a massive prize for anyone who could devise a practical method for determining longitude at sea. Amidst the celebrated astronomers and academics vying for the Longitude Prize, a new contender emerged from an unlikely background. His name was John Harrison, not a scholar from a grand university. He was a carpenter, self-taught clockmaker from a small village in Yorkshire, England. Harrison lacked formal schooling in the sciences, but had a deep, intuitive understanding of mechanics and unyielding persistence. From a young age, he was fascinated with how things worked. He built his first pendulum clock in 1713, almost entirely out of wood. Wood was a material he knew intimately from his carpentry trade. John Harrison was a man of his hands. He thought through building, testing, and improving. He made and repaired clocks for local churches and wealthy landowners. This work taught him how temperature and friction could affect a clock's accuracy. He believed the longitude problem was, at its heart, a timekeeping problem. While great astronomers looked to the heavens, Harrison looked down at the gears and springs in his workshop. For sailors in the 18th century, the inability to determine longitude was not an abstract scientific issue. It was a constant and terrifying threat. Every voyage into the open ocean was a journey into the unknown. Captains could navigate with some confidence north and south, but their east-west position was little more than guesswork. They used a method called dead reckoning, where they would estimate their ship's speed, track its direction with a compass, and try to account for ocean currents and winds. But over a long journey, small errors in these estimates would add up, leading to massive navigational mistakes that could prove fatal for the entire crew. John Harrison approached the challenge of creating a sea clock with the mind of a true inventor. He knew a simple pendulum clock would never work on a ship, so he had to rethink timekeeping from the ground up. His first major invention, completed in 1735, was a large, heavy machine that came to be known as H1. It did not look like any clock that had come before it. Instead of a pendulum, it used two large interconnected balances. One balance swung one way, the other swung the opposite way. This clever design meant that the rolling motion of a ship would not affect its timekeeping. The movement of one balance cancelled out the movement of the other. To tackle the problem of friction, which could wear down parts and introduce errors, Harrison used his carpentry skills to create gears from a self-lubricating tropical wood. For metal components that had to touch, he designed grasshopper escapements, an ingenious mechanism that pushed the balance wheels along with minimal contact and no need for oil. Oil could thicken or dry out at sea. He also addressed the issue of temperature changes, which cause metal to expand and contract. Harrison built bimetallic strips made of brass and steel fused together. Since the two metals expanded at different rates, the strip would bend as the temperature changed, automatically adjusting the clock's mechanism to keep its rate constant. Harrison continued to refine his ideas through a series of ever-improving timekeepers. His second clock, H2, was even more robust and incorporated further improvements. This complex device included over 700 parts and featured several new innovations, including a caged roller bearing to further reduce friction. With H4 completed, the time had come to prove its worth on a real ocean voyage. The board of Longitude arranged for a transatlantic trial. In 1761, John Harrison's son, William, set sail from Portsmouth, England, aboard the HMS Deptford, bound for Jamaica. The precious H4 was carefully secured in a box for the journey. For 81 days at sea, the ship sailed through storms and calm, while the small clock ticked away relentlessly. Upon arriving in Jamaica, the ship's longitude was calculated based on H4's time. The result was astonishing. After more than 2 months at sea, the clock was only 5 seconds slow, corresponding to a navigational error of just over 1 mile. This level of accuracy was unheard of. Traditional dead reckoning methods could be off by hundreds of miles on such a long voyage. William Harrison and H4 returned to England, confident that they had met the terms of the Longitude Act and secured the prize. However, the board of Longitude was not so easily convinced. Many of its members were astronomers, and they were heavily invested in finding an astronomical solution, such as the lunar distance method. This complex technique involved measuring the angle between the moon and certain stars to calculate the time. They were skeptical that a mere mechanic like Harrison could have solved the problem with a simple clock. They argued that the amazing accuracy of the first trial could have been a fluke, a lucky accident. They demanded a second trial to confirm the results. So, in 1764, William Harrison and H4 set off once more, this time on a voyage to Barbados. Over the course of the 156-day round trip, the chronometer's total error was just 39 seconds, which translated to a longitude error of less than 10 miles. This was 10 times more accurate than the requirements of the Longitude Act. Despite the overwhelming success of 2 sea trials, John Harrison's struggle was far from over. The board of Longitude, though forced to admit H4's stunning accuracy, was reluctant to award him the full prize. They awarded him a portion of the money, but refused the full $20,000 until he met new, demanding conditions. They insisted he fully disclose all the secrets of H4's construction, and they demanded he build 2 more copies. This was a bitter pill for Harrison to swallow. Some members, like the Astronomer Royal, Neville Maskelyne, championed the rival lunar distance method, and he published tables to make the lunar calculations easier. It became a classic clash: academic theory, practical craftsmanship. For years, Harrison fought a lonely battle, painstakingly writing detailed drawings and descriptions. He also began work on his 5th chronometer, H5, to prove the design could be duplicated. Finally, in 1772, Harrison bypassed the board and appealed to King George III. The king, fascinated by Harrison's story, arranged for H5 to be tested at his private observatory. For 10 weeks, the king himself monitored the clock's performance. It lost less than 1/3 of a second per day. The king was furious at the injustice and famously declared, "By God, Harrison, I will see you righted." With the king's support, Parliament awarded Harrison a final payment in 1773, recognizing his monumental achievement. John Harrison's victory was more than a personal triumph. It was a turning point for the entire world. The marine chronometer was a technology that reshaped global travel. The marine chronometer was a technology that reshaped trade. The marine chronometer was a technology that reshaped exploration. With Harrison's invention and the subsequent copies made by other clockmakers, ships could finally navigate the oceans with confidence and precision. This newfound safety and efficiency fueled the age of sail. Captain James Cook, one of history's greatest explorers, used a copy of H4 on his second and third voyages to the Pacific, allowing him to create astonishingly accurate maps of coastlines that were previously unknown to Europeans. Shorter, more direct voyages meant that goods could be transported more quickly and with less risk. The power of empires grew as navies could command the seas with greater certainty. The marine chronometer became an essential tool for every ship's captain, as vital as the compass or the sextant. It was the key that unlocked reliable long-distance sea navigation and accelerated the process of globalization. Harrison's legacy extends far beyond the 18th century. The global positioning system we use every day relies on the same basic principle. Precise time tells us where we are. The story of John Harrison is a powerful reminder of the impact one dedicated individual can have on the world. He was a patient and persistent craftsman who dared to challenge the scientific orthodoxy of his day with a practical, hands-on solution. His journey teaches us that innovation does not always come from established institutions, but often from the workshop of a determined maker. He faced doubt, bureaucracy, and professional jealousy, but he never gave up on his idea. John Harrison fixed time at sea, and in doing so he saved countless lives, expanded our knowledge of the planet, and laid the foundation for the interconnected world we live in today.